Hello, everyone. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. It is no secret that it is getting more expensive to buy a home. This is not a recent phenomenon. Homes have been outpacing the median income, or the median home has outpaced the growth in median income for about the last 20 years. And we've seen the accelerator pressed in the last 2 years. Why is this? Why are homes going up in value faster than incomes? Because typically it's the income that makes the price of their home go up. Well, I would assert to you that homes are now becoming a store of value. It's one of the few things that you can use leverage on, and so it protects you from inflation. Homes have become investment opportunities. People are owning multiple homes on top of the Airbnb phenomena. But all this means is homes are getting more expensive. Cities are getting more expensive to live in. And the quality of life for your average millennial, Gen Zer, trying to start their life, trying to get on the first rung of the economic ladder, is getting more and more difficult. And I would assert to you that at the base layer, the problem that's causing this is the money itself. It's not greed from individuals because they're reacting to market forces. It is the money itself, because money is just a measuring stick in the economy. And if you print a ton of it, if you hand a ton of it out, if you have inflation and then you underestimate it, as the government tends to do, things get more and more expensive. People want to use leverage, but the measuring stick of money is broken. And so people are trying to evaluate their life and make decisions based off a faulty measuring stick, and that causes all kinds of problems in the economy. It makes it difficult to live, and it lowers the standard of living because wages never keep up with inflation. So I want to take a look at this article and go through a couple cities. The top 15 cities when it comes to price of a home compared to the median price of a home compared to the median income, it's getting out of hand. And so if people want to afford a home, they have to cut somewhere else. Maybe it's their vehicles, maybe it's the food they eat, but they have to cut somewhere else if they want to buy a home. So housing is part of the CPI, and it has skyrocketed by 18% on average nationwide over the last 2 years. So a lot of people who want to buy a home have to put some kind of money down, on top of the fact that they have to have a pretty good credit score. And the last 2 years have decimated people's credit score. So even if they're ready, they're ready to buy a home, air quotes, they can't afford it because the interest rate that we're seeing today are absolutely astronomical. So reading from the article here, while recent economic conditions have caused great alarm, the gap between the rates of growth for income and home prices is not a new phenomenon. So you're telling me we've had inflation before this? The answer is correct. It's been slower, but we've definitely had inflation. So the rate of growth in the median income has lagged behind that of home prices for at least the last 2 decades. It's kind of the boiling frog syndrome. You've seen inflation, but it hasn't been as drastic as it is today because the government is estimating about 8% inflation, but inflation is very personal, like your inflation rate versus mine. But I would say if we're measuring inflation using shadow stats, basically the same way we used to measure inflation in the 70s, inflation's actually in the last 2 years has been around 16%, which is way higher, approximately double, than what the U.S. government is quoting in. So further reading here, the median income in the U.S. has increased by 61%, while homes have increased 96%. That's from 2000 to 2020. And that's with the great financial crisis when homes got crushed. So you see this trend here in this chart. You see wages growing, and you see home prices growing, obviously at a faster rate. So you see the great financial crisis. But even when it dropped after the great financial crisis, it was still going up at a faster pace than wages. And what does this mean long term? What's the macro trend? People are going to have to lower their standard of living. or the government's going to have to come in and make it even worse, which they have in the past. They say, hey, we want everyone to be able to afford a house, just like we wanted them to be able to afford college. We saw how well that worked out. We have an entire generation saddled with debt they can't bankrupt on. But they might do the same thing with housing and say something like, hey, we're going to give you a 40-year loan now. We're going to back the 40-year loan. And what do you think that'll do to home prices? That'll make them go up even more. Might lower the payment, but the price of the house goes up. And my assertion is it'll only lower the payment just a little bit. So where are we seeing the most growth? It's actually out west. So we have small and mid-sized cities that the price to income ratio is most of the growth we're seeing is out west in California, in Idaho. But small and mid-sized cities who are seeing the highest price to income ratios are right here. And they're not stopping. They keep going up. And the monthly payment, which is what most people are worried about, is going up because of interest rates. Do you think this will correct itself? Understanding that the trend, because a lot of people say this housing market's a bubble, which it very well could be, but you got to think, a lot of the people that own these homes, they locked in like a 2.5% to 3% interest rate over the last 2 years. And so we're seeing inflation prints at 8%. So they are essentially making 5% on that house by paying the payments. And so they're sitting pretty when it comes to their loan, as long as they can afford the payments. Maybe they're renting it out. So the desire to sell in mass may not be there. Maybe if people start getting laid off, that'll be the case. But not yet. Not yet. So here's some of the largest cities that have the highest home price to income ratios. Portland, Oregon, I've been there many times. You'd be surprised that people still want to buy a house in Portland, Oregon. It's a beautiful city, but downtown is real bad. But so the home price to income ratio is 7.3%. So that means 7.3 years, or 7.3 years you have to work. Full income is the price of a house. Denver, Colorado, my home state, 7.5. 5-year change in median home price, up 47.3. More, and here's the important part. Mortgage holders spending over 30% of income on housing, 29% in Denver. So where does that money come from? It comes from somewhere else. A lot of people are living off of credit cards right now and buy now, pay later programs. I did a video on this, but this isn't a good long-term trend. Washington, D.C., 7.6. 5-year change, 22.8. Austin, Texas, 8 years of wages to buy a house. 5-year change, up 77.8%. Seattle, Washington, 8.5 years of wages to buy a house. 5-year change, up 45.6. Boston, Massachusetts, 8.8 years, up 26.9 over the last 2 years. And it keeps going. You got San Diego, California, Miami, Florida, Anaheim, California, New York, Los Angeles, Long Beach, Oakland, California, San Francisco. When are we going to see the trend change is the question. What people are asking, especially in the millennial generation and Gen Z who want to buy a starter home, when am I going to be able to do this? Are we going to have another GFC? And I don't think anyone can predict the future. As George Gammon says, it's probabilities, not certainties. But when you see people's incomes dropping and home prices rising, typically the home prices have to drop in order for demand and supply to balance out. However, we're living in a world of inflation, artificially low interest rates over the last 2 years, and high employment. So until you see people getting desperate, meaning they have to sell their home, I don't think you're going to see prices drop astronomically like they did in 08. And remember, in 08, the prices didn't bottom until 2012 because homes are not a very liquid asset. And so for all these economic trends to work their way through the economy, it does take time, like it did back in 08. But like I said, at the base level, I think this is all about the money being broken. Because if the money is broken, subconsciously people are looking at ways to beat inflation. And a lot of people are looking at homes, Airbnbs, all kinds of things to beat inflation. And the yardstick is broken. Measuring stick for the economy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. See you guys in the next one. Peace.